Picture this: you walk into a room, and without saying a word, people notice you, not because you're the loudest or most flamboyant person there, but because there's something magnetic about your presence. This isn't about physical appearance or charisma tricks. This is about silent attractiveness, the kind that comes from deep within and radiates outward through your actions and energy. The ancient Stoics understood something profound about human nature. True attractiveness isn't about what you say or how you perform. It's about who you are when nobody's watching, and how that authenticity shows up in every interaction. Today we're exploring 12 Stoic habits that create this silent magnetism, the kind that makes people want to be around you, trust you, and seek your company without you ever having to try too hard. But before we dive into these habits, let's understand what silent attractiveness really means. It's not about being mysterious or aloof. It's about cultivating such genuine inner strength and authenticity that your mere presence becomes a source of comfort and inspiration for others. It's the difference between demanding attention and naturally earning it. Think about the people in your life who possess this quality. They might not be the most conventionally beautiful or the most outgoing, but there's something about them that draws you in. They make you feel better about yourself when you're around them. They seem to operate from a place of inner calm and confidence that's both inspiring and soothing. These people have mastered the art of silent attractiveness, and the good news is that these qualities can be developed through practice and intention. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome, figures like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, developed a practical philosophy for living that emphasized virtue, wisdom, and inner tranquility. They understood that external circumstances are largely beyond our control, but our responses to those circumstances are entirely within our power. This fundamental insight forms the foundation of all the habits we'll explore today. Psychology behind silent attractiveness. Before we examine the specific habits, it's worth understanding why silent attractiveness works so powerfully on a psychological level. Human beings are naturally drawn to stability, authenticity, and strength. In our chaotic, uncertain world, we're attracted to people who seem grounded and secure in themselves. This attraction isn't necessarily romantic. It applies to friendships, professional relationships, and all forms of human connection. Silent attractiveness works because it addresses fundamental human needs: the need to feel safe, the need to feel valued, and the need to feel understood. When someone embodies these Stoic qualities, they create an environment where others can relax their defenses and be more authentic themselves. This creates a positive feedback loop where deeper connections become possible. Moreover, silent attractiveness is sustainable in a way that performance-based charisma is not. When your attractiveness comes from who you are rather than what you do, you don't have to maintain an exhausting facade. You can simply be yourself, which paradoxically makes you more magnetic than any persona could. Habit 1. Master your emotional reactions. The first habit of silent attractiveness is emotional self-regulation, and it's perhaps the most foundational of all these practices. Think about the last time you were around someone who remained calm during a crisis or didn't lose their temper when things went wrong. There's something deeply attractive about that kind of stability, isn't there? Stoics understood that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. When you develop the ability to pause between stimulus and response, you become a safe harbor for others. People are naturally drawn to those who won't explode, panic, or create drama when life gets challenging. This doesn't mean being emotionless. It means being emotionally intelligent and choosing your reactions consciously. Consider the executive who receives devastating news about a project failure, but takes a deep breath before responding. Instead of immediately assigning blame or panicking, she asks clarifying questions, gathers information, and then responds with a clear action plan. The team feels secure knowing that even in crisis, their leader won't make impulsive decisions that could make things worse. Or think about the parent who remains calm when their teenager comes home 2 hours past curfew. Instead of exploding with anger and fear, the parent takes a moment to center themselves, then addresses the situation from a place of concern rather than rage. The teenager, expecting a fight, is disarmed by this response and more likely to be honest about what happened. The practice here is simple but powerful. When you feel an intense emotion rising, pause for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself, what response would serve everyone best here? This tiny practice can transform your relationships and your reputation, but emotional mastery goes deeper than just managing anger or frustration. It includes how you handle disappointment, rejection, criticism, and even success. People are attracted to those who can celebrate wins without arrogance and handle losses without despair. This emotional equilibrium suggests inner strength and wisdom that others want to be around. The beauty of emotional mastery is that it creates a ripple effect. When you remain centered, you give others permission to do the same. You become the person others turn to in difficult times, not because you have all the answers, but because you have the emotional capacity to hold space for complexity without falling apart. To develop this habit, start by becoming aware of your emotional triggers. What situations typically cause you to react impulsively? Once you identify these patterns, you can begin to prepare for them mentally. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, imagining potential challenges so they wouldn't catch you off guard emotionally. Habit 2, listen more than you speak. In our world of constant noise and everyone fighting to be heard, the person who truly listens stands out like a lighthouse in the fog. Deep, attentive listening is a rare gift, and when you give it to others, they feel seen and valued in a way that's almost addictive. The Stoic practice here isn't just about being quiet, it's about being genuinely curious about other people's experiences and perspectives. When you listen with your whole attention, without planning your next response or judging what's being said, you create a space where people can be authentic, and authenticity is magnetic. True listening involves your whole being. It means noticing not just the words being spoken, but the emotions behind them, the pauses, the things left unsaid. It means picking up on subtle cues like changes in tone, body language, and energy level. When someone feels truly heard, they experience a kind of relief and connection that's profoundly attractive. Consider the difference between these two conversational approaches. In the first scenario, while someone is telling you about their difficult day, you're mentally preparing your own story about a similar experience. You're waiting for them to finish so you can share your perspective or advice. In the second scenario, you're completely absorbed in understanding their experience. You're curious about the details, the emotions, how they're processing the situation. The first approach, while well-intentioned, leaves the speaker feeling like they've been used as a launching pad for your own narrative. The second approach leaves them feeling understood and valued. People remember how you made them feel, and feeling truly heard is an unforgettable experience. Effective listening also involves asking thoughtful follow-up questions that show you've been paying attention. When you mentioned feeling overwhelmed, what specifically was weighing on you most? Or, that sounds like it was really challenging. How did you get through it? These questions invite deeper sharing and demonstrate genuine interest. The irony of listening more than you speak is that people often walk away from conversations with you feeling like you're incredibly interesting, even though you barely talked about yourself. This happens because you've given them the gift of being truly heard, which is so rare that they associate a good feeling with you personally. One of the most powerful aspects of great listening is that it helps people understand themselves better. When you reflect back what you've heard or ask clarifying questions, you help others process their own thoughts and emotions. This makes you valuable in their lives in a way that goes far beyond entertainment or information sharing. Practice this habit by setting an intention before conversations. I'm going to learn something new about this person. This simple shift in mindset transforms routine interactions into opportunities for genuine connection. Also, practice listening for emotions, not just facts. Often, so it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because the project keeps changing and you're worried about meeting the deadline. Is that right? This simple technique ensures you've understood correctly and shows the speaker that you've been truly paying attention. Habit 3. Respond, don't react. There's a world of difference between someone who reacts impulsively and someone who responds thoughtfully. Reactive people are unpredictable and often exhausting to be around. They create drama, make situations more difficult, and leave others walking on eggshells. Responsive people are steady, reliable, and create a sense of safety in relationship. The Stoic habit here is taking that crucial pause before speaking or acting. Ask yourself, what would wisdom look like in this moment? This simple practice transforms you from someone who might say things they regret into someone whose words carry weight and consideration. People are drawn to those whose responses feel intentional rather than accidental. Think about the difference between these two scenarios. Someone criticizes your work, and you immediately defend yourself with a list of excuses, perhaps even attacking their competence in return. Versus someone criticizes your work, and you pause, consider their perspective and say, "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. Let me think about what you've said and get back to you." The second response demonstrates emotional maturity and wisdom that people find deeply attractive. The space between stimulus and response is where your power lies. In that space, you can choose courage over fear, kindness over cruelty, wisdom over reactivity. The more you practice expanding that space, the more people will notice your thoughtfulness and seek your counsel. This doesn't mean being slow to respond or overthinking everything. It means developing the wisdom to know when to act quickly and when to pause. Sometimes the wisest response is immediate action, other times it's taking time to consider. The attractive quality is the consciousness behind your choice. Responsive people are attractive because they're predictable in the best sense. You know they won't say or do something they'll regret later. This creates trust and safety in relationships. People feel comfortable sharing sensitive information with you because they know you won't have an emotional outburst or make the situation about yourself. Developing this habit requires becoming aware of your typical reaction patterns. Do you tend to get defensive when criticized? Do you interrupt when excited? Do you shut down when confronted? Once you identify these patterns, you can begin to catch yourself in the moment and choose a different response. One practical technique is to physically slow down when you feel reactive energy rising. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and speak more slowly than feels natural. This physical slowing down naturally leads to more thoughtful responses. The Stoics also practiced viewing situations from multiple perspectives before responding. They would ask themselves, how would a wise person handle this? What would this look like from the other person's point of view? What response would I be proud of tomorrow? These questions help ensure that your responses come from your highest self rather than your triggered self. Habit 4. Carry yourself with quiet confidence. Authentic confidence is perhaps the most silently attractive quality a person can possess, but we're not talking about the loud, boastful kind of confidence that screams for attention. We're talking about the quiet assurance that comes from knowing yourself and being comfortable with who you are. Stoic confidence comes from internal validation rather than external approval. When you stop seeking constant affirmation from others and start drawing your self-worth from your own values and actions, you develop an unshakable foundation. This inner strength is palpable to others and creates a magnetic pull. Quiet confidence shows up in subtle ways: the way you stand without slouching or puffing up, how you make natural eye contact without staring or looking away nervously, your willingness to admit when you don't know something, your ability to compliment others without feeling diminished. It's the confidence that doesn't need to prove itself because it's rooted in genuine self-acceptance rather than ego. This kind of confidence is attractive because it's non-threatening. Loud confidence often makes others feel small or defensive. It suggests insecurity masked by bravado. Quiet confidence, on the other hand, makes others feel safe and inspired. It says, "I'm comfortable with who I am," and that comfort extends to accepting you as you are too. Consider the difference between someone who name drops and brags about their accomplishments versus someone who mentions their work matter or factly when relevant. The first person is seeking validation and status, which actually signals insecurity. The second person is simply sharing information without attachment to how it's received, which suggests genuine confidence. Quiet confidence also shows up in how you handle mistakes and criticism. Instead of making excuses or deflecting blame, you acknowledge errors straightforwardly. "You're right, I made a mistake there. Here's what I learned from it." This response demonstrates secure self-worth that doesn't need to be protected at all costs. Building quiet confidence starts with self-knowledge. Spend time understanding your values, your strengths, and yes, your weaknesses. The Stoics practiced negative visualization, imagining loss or failure, not to be pessimistic, but to build resilience and perspective. When you're not afraid of failure or rejection, you naturally carry yourself differently. Another aspect of quiet confidence is being comfortable with not being the center of attention. You don't need to dominate conversations or be the most interesting person in the room. You're secure enough to let others shine and genuinely appreciate their contributions. This generosity of spirit is incredibly attractive because it's so rare. Quiet confidence also means being selective about what you share and when. You don't feel compelled to fill every silence with personal information or achievements. You can hold space for mystery and let people discover your qualities gradually through observation rather than declaration. To develop this habit, practice internal validation. After completing a task or handling a situation well, acknowledge your own competence privately before seeking external praise. Notice when you're fishing for compliments or validation and practice finding that satisfaction internally instead. Habit 5. Be fully present. In an age of constant distraction, presence is a superpower. When you're with someone, be truly with them. Put away the phone, stop thinking about your to-do list, and engage fully with the moment at hand. The Stoics called this attention to the present moment, and it's one of their core practices. When you master presence, you give others the experience of being the most important person in the world for that moment. This kind of attention is so rare that it becomes incredibly attractive. People remember how you made them feel, and feeling truly seen is an unforgettable experience. Full presence means more than just putting your phone away. It means bringing your complete attention to whatever you're doing, whether that's having a conversation, eating a meal, or walking down the street. When you're present, you notice things others miss. The slight change in someone's expression, the beauty in an ordinary moment, the subtle dynamics in a group conversation. This awareness makes you more interesting to be around because you see and respond to things others overlook. You might notice when someone seems tired and ask if they're okay, or comment on something beautiful that others walk past without seeing. This attentiveness creates a sense of aliveness and connection that people find magnetic. Consider how different these two experiences are. You're having coffee with a friend, and throughout the conversation you're checking your phone, thinking about work, and half listening to what they're saying. Versus, you're completely absorbed in the conversation, noticing the nuances of their expressions, asking thoughtful follow-up questions, and creating space for meaningful dialogue. Which version of you would people prefer to spend time with? Presence also involves what the Stoics called sympatheia, the recognition that we're all interconnected. When you're truly present with someone, you're not just waiting for your turn to talk or judging what they're saying. You're recognizing the shared humanity in the moment and honoring the other person's experience. The practice of presence extends beyond conversations. When you're walking, really walk. Notice your surroundings, feel your feet touching the ground, appreciate the sensory experience of being alive. When you're eating, taste your food instead of mindlessly consuming while distracted. This quality of attention becomes a way of being that others can sense and are drawn to. Practice presence by choosing one activity each day to do with complete attention. Whether it's drinking your morning coffee or walking to your car, bring your full awareness to the experience. Notice how different it feels and how this quality of attention begins to spill over into your interactions with others. You can also practice presence in conversation by noticing when your mind wanders to other topics, judgments, or preparing your response. Gently bring your attention back to the person speaking. This simple practice dramatically improves the quality of your connections with others. Another practical technique is to practice the 5 senses check-in. Regularly throughout the day, notice what you can see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. This simple practice anchors you in the present moment and develops your capacity for sustained attention. Habit 6. Show genuine curiosity about others. Silently attractive people have mastered the art of making others feel interesting. Instead of trying to impress people with their own stories and achievements, they ask thoughtful questions and show genuine interest in the answers. This Stoic approach recognizes that everyone has a story worth hearing and wisdom to share. When you approach conversations with sincere curiosity rather than a desire to showcase yourself, you create connections that feel meaningful and authentic. People leave conversations with you feeling energized and valued. Genuine curiosity goes beyond surface-level questions. Instead of asking, "How was your weekend?" try, "What was the highlight of your weekend?" Instead of, "What do you do for work?" ask, "What drew you to that field?" Or what's the most interesting part of your work? These questions invite people to share something meaningful rather than just providing information. The key is that your curiosity must be authentic. People can sense when you're asking questions just to be polite versus when you're genuinely interested in their answer. Real curiosity comes from recognizing that every person you meet has experiences, insights, and perspectives that could enrich your understanding of the world. Think about the last time someone was genuinely curious about your life. Not just making small talk, but really wanting to understand your experiences and perspectives. How did that feel? Most people rarely experience this kind of attention, which is why it's so powerful when you provide it. Curiosity also involves being interested in people's thought processes, not just their circumstances. Instead of just asking what happened, ask how they felt about it, what they learned from it, or how it changed their perspective. These deeper questions create opportunities for more meaningful connections. This habit transforms you from someone who takes energy from conversations by trying to impress or get validation into someone who gives energy by making others feel seen and valued. This shift is noticeable and incredibly attractive. People are naturally attracted to those who make them feel interesting and important. When you consistently show genuine interest in others, you become someone people seek out because interactions with you leave them feeling good about themselves. To develop genuine curiosity, practice assuming that everyone you meet has something interesting to teach you. This mindset shift naturally leads to better questions and more engaging conversations. Also, practice following up on details people share. If someone mentions they're learning guitar, ask about it in future conversations. This shows that you not only listened but remembered and cared enough to follow up. Another way to deepen your curiosity is to ask about people's opinions and perspectives rather than just facts. What do you think about that new policy? Or how do you see this situation developing? These questions invite people to share their thoughts and demonstrate that you value their perspective. Habit 7. Accept what you cannot control. Nothing is more attractive than someone who doesn't waste energy complaining about things they can't change. The Stoic practice of distinguishing between what's in your control and what isn't creates a kind of peaceful power that others find compelling. When you stop trying to control outcomes, other people or circumstances beyond your influence, you free up enormous mental and emotional energy. This energy then becomes available for what you can control: your actions, your responses, and your character. People are drawn to this kind of focused, purposeful energy. Acceptance doesn't mean passive resignation. It means clearly understanding what you can and cannot influence, then directing your energy accordingly. You can't control whether you get the promotion, but you can control how well you prepare and how gracefully you handle the outcome. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. This clarity is attractive because it eliminates drama and victim mentality from your presence. Instead of being around someone who's constantly frustrated by things they can't change, people get to be around someone who's focused on positive action and growth. This creates an environment where solutions are more likely to emerge and progress is possible. Consider two people facing the same difficult situation, perhaps a company layoff. One person spends their energy complaining about management decisions, expressing anger about the unfairness, and ruminating on what should have happened differently. The other person acknowledges the disappointment but quickly focuses on what they can control, updating their resume, networking, and planning their next steps. Which person would you rather be around? Which person would you want to hire or collaborate with? The second person's approach is attractive because it's forward-focused and solution-oriented rather than stuck in victimhood and complaint. When you embody this acceptance, you become a calming presence in others' lives. Your energy says, "We can handle whatever comes our way," rather than "everything is falling apart." This stability is magnetic and makes people want to be around you, especially during challenging times. The Stoic practice here involves regularly asking yourself, is this within my control or not? For things outside your control, practice letting go of the need to change them and instead focus on how you can respond constructively. For things within your control, take clear, purposeful action. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to outcomes. You can still have preferences and work toward goals. The difference is that you don't attach your emotional well-being to results you can't guarantee. You do your best and remain open to whatever happens. Practicing acceptance also means accepting other people as they are rather than trying to change them. This doesn't mean tolerating poor treatment, but it means recognizing that you can't control other people's choices, only your own responses to them. Habit 8. Maintain integrity in small moments. Silent attractiveness often comes down to the small moments when no one important is watching. Do you keep your word about little things? Do you treat service workers with respect? Do you maintain your principles even when it's inconvenient? The Stoics understood that character is built in these seemingly insignificant moments. When you consistently act with integrity, even in small ways, it creates a trustworthiness that people can sense. This reliability becomes a foundation for deeper relationships and genuine respect. Integrity in small moments might look like returning a shopping cart to the designated area, even when you're in a hurry, keeping a promise to call someone back, even when you're busy, or admitting when you've made a mistake, even when you could probably get away with not mentioning it. It's about being the same person, whether you're with your boss or a stranger, whether someone is watching or not. People notice these small acts of integrity, often unconsciously. When you consistently follow through on small commitments, people begin to trust that you'll follow through on big ones. When you treat everyone with basic respect, people feel safe that you'll treat them well, even when they're not in a position of power. Consider the person who's charming and impressive in important meetings but dismissive and rude to the receptionist, versus the person who treats everyone with the same basic level of respect and kindness. Which person would you trust with something important? Which person would you want to work with long-term? This consistency creates a reputation that precedes you. People describe you as solid, trustworthy, or genuine without being able to point to any single grand gesture. It's the accumulation of small, consistent choices that creates this attractive quality of dependability. Integrity also means aligning your actions with your stated values. If you say you value honesty, you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. If you say you value punctuality, you show up on time. If you say you value respect, you treat everyone respectfully. This alignment between words and actions is rare and incredibly attractive. Small moments of integrity might include acknowledging when you don't know something instead of bluffing, giving credit to others for their contributions, or apologizing sincerely when you've made a mistake. Also, pay attention to the small commitments you make. Even saying, "I'll call you back," creates an expectation that others notice whether you fulfill. Another aspect of integrity is being honest about your limitations and boundaries. Instead of agreeing to things you can't or don't want to do and then doing them poorly or resentfully, practice saying no kindly but clearly. This honesty is more attractive than false agreeability that leads to disappointment. Habit 9. Handle criticism with grace. How you handle feedback and criticism reveals everything about your character. Silently attractive people don't get defensive, make excuses, or attack back when faced with criticism. Instead, they listen. Consider what might be valuable in the feedback and respond with grace. This Stoic approach treats criticism as potential wisdom rather than personal attack. When you can receive feedback without ego, you show emotional maturity that others find impressive and safe. People feel comfortable being honest with you because they know you won't punish them for it. Sometimes this looks like saying, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Let me think about what you've said." Other times it might be, "I appreciate your perspective. I see it differently, but I understand your concern." The attractive quality here is emotional security. When you don't take criticism personally, you demonstrate that your self-worth isn't fragile. This confidence is magnetic because it signals that you can handle conflict and growth without falling apart or becoming vindictive. 2 different responses to the same criticism. Response 1. That's not true. You don't understand the situation. Actually, you did X wrong yourself, so you can't talk. Response 2. I appreciate you sharing your perspective. I want to understand your concern better. Can you help me see what I missed? The first response shuts down communication and makes the other person regret speaking up. The second response invites dialogue and demonstrates emotional maturity. Which person would you feel safer giving feedback to in the future? Practice this by consciously relaxing your body when receiving criticism. Take a breath, listen fully, and remember that someone's feedback says more about their experience than about your worth as a person. This simple shift can transform criticism from a threat into an opportunity for connection and growth. Another key aspect is separating your actions from your identity. When someone criticizes something you did, they're not attacking who you are as a person. This distinction allows you to consider feedback objectively rather than taking it as a personal assault. Graceful handling of criticism also involves asking clarifying questions to better understand the feedback. Can you give me a specific example? Or what would have been more effective? These questions show that you're serious about understanding and improving, which most people find impressive and attractive. Habit 10. Act with purpose. There's something magnetic about people who seem to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. This doesn't mean having your entire life figured out. It means approaching your actions with intention rather than just drifting through life. The Stoic practice of purposeful action means regularly asking yourself what truly matters and aligning your behaviors with those values. When people sense that your actions come from a place of purpose rather than randomness, they're naturally drawn to that clarity and direction. Purpose shows up in both big and small ways. It might be the career path you've chosen, because it aligns with your values, or it might be the way you choose to spend your weekend because it feeds your soul. It's about making conscious choices rather than just going through the motions. People are attracted to purpose because it suggests that you're going somewhere, that you have something meaningful driving you. This doesn't mean you need to have grand ambitions or be changing the world. It means having reasons for your choices and being able to articulate what matters to you. Consider the difference between someone who takes a job purely for the paycheck versus someone who chose their work because it allows them to contribute something they care about. Both might do good work, but the second person brings an energy and intentionality that's more compelling to be around. Acting with purpose also means being selective about how you spend your time and energy. When you have clear values and goals, it becomes easier to say no to things that don't align and yes to things that do. This selectivity creates a life that feels intentional and coherent, which others find inspiring. Purpose doesn't require having everything figured out. It simply requires being thoughtful about your choices and having reasons for them. Even uncertainty can be purposeful when it's conscious. For example, taking time to explore different options rather than just falling into whatever comes along. The Stoics emphasize that our purpose should be focused on what we can control rather than external outcomes. Instead of, "I want to be famous," a more Stoic purpose might be, "I want to create work that expresses my values and contributes positively to others." This internal focus makes your purpose more sustainable and attractive. To develop this habit, regularly reflect on your choices and ask yourself, why am I doing this? How does this align with what I value? What am I trying to create or contribute? These questions help ensure that your actions feel purposeful rather than random. Habit 11. Embrace comfortable silence. In a world where people fill every pause with nervous chatter, the ability to be comfortable with silence is remarkably attractive. Silently attractive people don't feel the need to fill every moment with words. They can sit quietly with others, enjoy peaceful moments, and let conversations breathe. This Stoic comfort with silence comes from inner peace and self-acceptance. When you're not constantly seeking validation through talking, you create space for deeper connections and more meaningful exchanges when words are shared. Comfortable silence demonstrates confidence and presence. It shows that you don't need constant stimulation or validation to feel okay. This quality is soothing to others because it reduces the pressure to perform or entertain. People can simply be themselves around you without feeling like they need to fill space with noise. Think about the difference between awkward silence and comfortable silence. Awkward silence feels tense because one or both people are uncomfortable with the pause. Comfortable silence feels natural and peaceful because both people are at ease with the moment as it is. Silence also creates space for others to share more deeply. When you don't rush to fill pauses, you often discover that people have more to say. They might share something vulnerable or meaningful that wouldn't have emerged if you'd quickly moved the conversation along. Some of the most intimate moments in relationships happen in comfortable silence. Sitting together watching a sunset, walking without talking, or simply being present with each other without the need for words. These moments create connection that goes deeper than conversation. Practice embracing silence by noticing your impulse to fill pauses and consciously choosing to wait. Allow conversations to have natural rhythms with moments of quiet reflection. You'll be surprised how often these silences lead to deeper, more authentic exchanges. Comfortable silence also includes being at peace with your own company. If you can't be comfortable alone with your thoughts, you'll struggle to be comfortable in silence with others. The Stoics practiced solitude and reflection as ways to develop this inner peace. Habit 12, lead by example. Perhaps the most powerful form of silent attractiveness is leading by example rather than through words. Instead of telling people what they should do or how they should live, you simply embody the qualities you value and let your actions speak for themselves. This Stoic approach recognizes that inspiration is more powerful than instruction. When people see you living with integrity, purpose, and wisdom, they naturally want to learn from you and spend time around the energy you create. Leading by example is attractive because it's non-judgmental and non-preachy. You're not telling others how to live, you're showing them what's possible. This creates an environment where people feel inspired rather than criticized, curious rather than defensive. This might look like being the person who stays calm in a crisis, who treats everyone with respect regardless of their status, who keeps their commitments, or who maintains their values even when it's difficult. Your example gives others permission to do the same. Consider the manager who consistently arrives early, treats all team members with respect, and maintains high standards for their own work. They never lecture about punctuality or professionalism, but their team naturally rises to their level because they've seen what excellence looks like in action. The power of leading by example is that it creates positive change without force or manipulation. People naturally want to rise to your level rather than feeling pressured to do so. This organic influence is the most attractive and effective form of leadership. Leading by example also means being the change you want to see in your relationships and environments. Instead of complaining about negativity, you bring positivity. Instead of criticizing poor communication, you model excellent communication. This proactive approach is far more attractive than reactive criticism. The compound effect of silent attractiveness. These 12 habits work together to create something powerful, a presence that draws people in without effort or manipulation. The beauty of silent attractiveness is that it's not about techniques or tricks. It's about becoming the kind of person others naturally want to be around. When you embody these habits consistently, they begin to reinforce each other. Emotional self-regulation makes it easier to listen deeply. Deep listening builds the presence that allows for comfortable silence. Accepting what you can't control frees up energy for purposeful action. Each habit supports and strengthens the others, creating a compound effect that's far greater than the sum of its parts. The Stoics understood that true influence comes not from what you say, but from who you are. When you embody these habits consistently, you create a magnetic field of authenticity, wisdom, and peace that touches everyone you encounter. This is the ultimate form of attractiveness. Not because you're trying to attract anyone, but because you've become genuinely attractive as a human being. Overcoming common challenges. Developing these habits isn't always easy, and it's important to acknowledge the challenges you might face along the way. One common obstacle is the fear that being too calm or accepting might make you seem passive or uncaring. Truth is that these Stoic qualities actually make you more effective, not less. When you're not wasting energy on things you can't control, you have more energy for things you can influence. Another challenge is dealing with people who try to provoke reactions from you. Some people are uncomfortable with calm, centered energy and may try to create drama or get you to lose your composure. The key is to remain grounded in your values while not taking their behavior personally. You might also worry that focusing on silent attractiveness is somehow selfish or manipulative. But the opposite is true. These habits make you more generous, present, and genuinely helpful to others. When you're secure in yourself, you have more to give to relationships and situations. Building these habits gradually. The journey to silent attractiveness is not about perfection, it's about progress, one thoughtful choice at a time. Start with the habit that resonates most with you or feels most needed in your current situation. Practice it consistently until it becomes natural. then add another. Remember that developing these qualities is a lifelong practice. Even the most centered people have moments when they react impulsively or lose their composure. The goal isn't to never make mistakes, but to recover more quickly and learn from each experience. Be patient with yourself as you develop these habits. Real change takes time, and the most sustainable transformations happen gradually. Focus on consistency rather than perfection and celebrate small improvements along the way. The ripple effect of your example. As you develop these Stoic habits, you'll notice that they not only make you more attractive, but also elevate the people and situations around you. Your calm presence helps others feel more centered. Your genuine curiosity helps people feel more interesting. Your integrity inspires others to be more honest. This ripple effect is one of the most rewarding aspects of developing silent attractiveness. You're not just improving your own life and relationships. You're contributing to a more authentic, peaceful world simply by being who you are. Remember, silent attractiveness isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming more fully who you already are at your best. These Stoic habits simply help you access and express that authentic self more consistently. And when you do, you'll discover that the most magnetic thing about you isn't what you do to get attention. It's who you are when you're not trying to get attention at all. The path to silent attractiveness is ultimately a path to becoming more fully yourself, calm, confident, curious, and kind. In a world full of noise and pretense, this authenticity is like a breath of fresh air. It draws people in not because it's trying to, but because it represents something we all long for. The peace and strength that come from being genuinely comfortable in your own skin.